All right, traders, we're back. Check this out. We got the Monero under the microscope right now. And, you know, I think in this case, a picture is definitely worth 1,000 words, right? I don't even have to say anything. It's pretty self-explanatory. Even though I will say, obviously, you can see that there's a massive head and shoulders pattern starting to, well, that doesn't even starting to develop. Actually is about to break, right? That's pretty much where we are at right now. And I really respect this pattern because you can see how distinctively the head is above the shoulders, right? So this seems to me like a genuine head and shoulders pattern that's about to break, right? Now, I will say this. We've seen on the left side, we've seen kind of a double bump shoulder, right? And my only concern at this point is that we'll have the same on the right side, which means that we're still missing one more bump, right? Doesn't mean that it has to happen, of course. Actually, I believe that it's more likely that it will break down right here, right now on this shot. But I want to make sure that I leave out all the other scenarios, right? I want to make sure that I prepare for another upside bump, in this case, just a continuation of that right shoulder. So I haven't pulled the trigger on this one yet. Usually I like to pull the trigger from the top of the right shoulder. Usually I can identify the pattern, and when the right shoulder begins to construct itself, usually I'm pulling the trigger way before the neckline is getting broken. In this case, I have to say I'm going to wait for a clear breakdown, right? So what I would like to see here is at least a daily close below our neckline. That will propel me to establish a small short position on the Monero, and only when I have that weekly close, confirmation, I will begin to increase this position and bring it to a decent size. And I want to talk about the potential targets, right? We actually have two. And usually what I do where I work, whenever we work with a head and shoulders pattern, it actually makes things much simpler, because what you need to do is measure the head and measure the right shoulders, right? That's pretty much the measures you want to take. So what I like to do is take the first Fibonacci projection, the 1.236, which is the closest one, which means that it's it's the most reliable one, if you will. And I like to measure that same 1.236 on both the right shoulder and the head. So what you see here, these two green dotted lines, are actually these are the measurements, right? So the first line at 76.5, that would be the first Fibonacci projection, 1.236 for the right shoulder, right? That's going to be our first target. Basically, we're going to use that spot for partial execution. And of course, later on, we expect price to go all the way to 71.75. 71.75, needless to say, is the 1.236 same Fibonacci projection. This time, instead of taking it on the right shoulder, we were measuring it on the head, right? From the base of the left shoulder to the very tip of that head. All right, guys. So yeah, it looks pretty promising right now, the Monero. I should say this, that once we pull the trigger, we're going to establish a stop loss level at 101.95, roughly around the levels of 102. And that's pretty much it, right? So not only the Monero is gearing up for a technical correction, we see some negative momentum, negative sentiment coming from pretty much all across the board. So it looks like we're going to spend some time on the downside, and obviously we'll have to come back, follow up, and keep you posted. That's about that for today, guys. Till next time, be well.